Welcome to the Darkstream. Vox Day, voxday.blogspot.com, and a Merry Christmas Eve to you all. Merry Christmas to the Dread Ilk. Merry Christmas to the VFM. Merry Christmas to the Ilk, to the ELOE, and a shout out to the Bears, who are probably busy listening to Owen right now anyhow. But Merry Christmas Eve to all of you. And I want to talk tonight about why we celebrate this. Not so much why we celebrate it in terms of, yes, it's the metaphorical celebration of Jesus Christ's birthday. But I want to talk about the hope and the joy that are such an important aspect of the holiday. And, I've always enjoyed Christmas Eve in some ways more than I enjoy the morning, now that I'm an adult. Back when I lived in the States, I used to enjoy going out with my grandfather, who was Catholic, and we would go to, the first Catholic church we could find that had a midnight mass around. And there's just something about being surrounded and caught up in this web of connection with so many Christians around the world that I find to be deeply meaningful, to be deeply compelling, and to be deeply peaceful. And I think that that's how you can understand the meaning of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And it's something that it's hard to describe. It's something that it's something that's a very spiritual, very emotional, and very personal experience. And yet many of us have felt it. Many of us know it. A lot of you know exactly what I'm talking about. And, it's something that very few people have ever really been able to put into words. And it's not, this is the aspect of the holiday that is about the deeper, more spiritual, more meaningful aspects of the celebration. The family aspects are important. The tradition of giving, the celebration, it is important. I don't really have much time or patience for, the Puritans who try to complain that, solstice that, Christmas tree this, etc., etc. The important thing is what is in your heart. And that's what a lot of non-Christians simply don't understand. And it's something that even a lot of Christians fail to fully grasp. Because, if you look at even a pagan philosopher like Epictetus, they talk about the way in which, what you do hidden behind doors is still seen and is still known. And in the same way, God understands your intentions. He understands what you're celebrating. And so, there's not a, anyhow, I'm going to ban this guy because he's trying to hijack it and talk about paganism. Show some respect. You can be as bitter as you like about whatever you want, but this isn't the time for that. If you don't want to listen to Christians talk about Christmas, then go somewhere else. I'm not going to get in an argument. I'm just simply telling you what I'm thinking, talking about what I'm feeling, and explaining the reason that we take such joy in this. If you think about it, what we're supposed to stand up for is that which is true, that which is beautiful, and that which gives hope. And there's no question that whatever the exact truth of a birth date might be, which is really irrelevant anyhow, the important thing is the beauty and the hope and the joy that it provides. We know this. And so, and the funny thing is, the more that they try to take Jesus out of Christmas, the more that they try to, come up with their fake holidays like Festivus and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa, all of, Hanukkah is actually a celebration, but it's a minor celebration that is not it doesn't even compare in any way, shape, or form to what we are celebrating at Christmas time. And so the important thing to focus on is not what the details are. It's not what the etymology of the holiday is, or what all of the symbols are. What we are celebrating is the idea that God cared enough about man to give us a way out. That he cared enough about man to give us a way to stand up to the evil that rules the world. I think I've made mention of this before. Probably the best Christmas sermon I ever heard was when Greg Boyd was talking, and he showed a video, and the music was Guns N' Roses' "Welcome to the Jungle," and the video was nothing but unrelenting bad news. Car crashes, war, fire, famine, just terrible image after terrible image. And we're all sitting there, there's probably 3,000 or 4,000 people at the service. And we're all sitting there thinking, what is going on? Where's the donkey? Where's the angels? We're listening to Guns N' Roses and watching seeing all these terrible images from the news. And then it ended, and the light came on, but it wasn't like the full lights. It was just kind of a spotlight. And then, Greg said, that is why Jesus came. To give us a way out of this. And so, that is why I value Christmas so much. That's what the true hope of Christmas is that we are no longer, as Christians, we are no longer subject to the rule of the ruler of the fallen world. We have a different king. And that is what we're celebrating today. I like the where we used to live, there was a little Catholic church just up the hill from where we lived. I mean, we're talking like less than 100 meters away from our house. And I always enjoyed, it wasn't the church we regularly attended, but that was usually where I would go and on Christmas Eve. And they had in the marble, all across the front of the church, it said, Il verbo si fece carne, and which means the word became flesh, and to dwell amongst us. And so that was literally carved in stone, the hope of the Christmas season. In Italian, you don't say Merry Christmas, you say Buon Natale. Natale is the Italian word for Christmas, and it literally means birth. And so there's no hiding what the celebration is. There's no hiding what we're celebrating. And for the past 80 years in America, there have been attempts to continue to obscure what we're celebrating. A lot of the great Christmas songs that we like. Silver Bells is one of my favorites. But all of those songs were meant to guide us away from what and who we are celebrating. And so that's why I like to remind people. That's why I like to talk about what is meaningful to me about the holiday, about Christmas, about celebrating the incarnation. And whether you believe it or not, is not really important to me. But what I would encourage you to do is to allow yourself to experience some of that joy, some of that beauty, some of that happiness, some of that spirit of the season. Don't reject it. Don't react to it. Because if you do, you are actually shorting yourself. You're actually you're actually depriving yourself of a positive experience that I think will help you. I don't get. I mean, just so you understand, I don't get offended at all by atheists who want to, pretend that they're celebrating the Yule or the winter solstice or whatever it is that they want to pretend they're celebrating. They're not. They are, attempting to distract. They're attempting to come up with an alternative. Which is fine. It's not going to work. Because the key thing about Christmas is hope and joy. Okay? It's not about the days getting longer. It's about the hope that there is more than the evil and the hate and the anger and the wretchedness of the world. Wade says, I didn't feel much of it this time. These last few days weren't good, yet I feel my faith has grown stronger this year and I'm grateful. Well, look, I haven't been having a good last few days. This whole thing with my wife's beloved dog has been pretty bad. To the point that, we had to tell the kids that, look, we're really not, we're not doing a lot of shopping or any of that kind of stuff, because it's not possible. I remember it was 2 days ago or something, we realized that, it's almost Christmas and we should probably try to at least arrange to get some presents for the kids, that's how absorbing this sort of thing can be. Yes, I understand. It's a dog. It's not one of the family. It's not one of the family members per se. But it doesn't mean that it's easy. You don't like to see any animal suffer, much less one that you care for a lot. And so, we didn't know today. She had to take him off to the vet to get some tests done. And we didn't know going in, if the results were going to be, you need to put him down now, or, it's not looking good, or, hey, he's started to recover and so forth. As it happens, we did get pretty good news. He's not out of the woods yet. But his numbers were shockingly good. And so, there's going to be, and so when you're looking at hope, it's really nice to get, a shot in the arm like that. But I would have said exactly the same thing that I'm saying to you tonight if we hadn't got that good news. And so, and I appreciate the fact that a lot of you guys pray for my family. I appreciate the fact that a lot of you actually prayed for her dog. He's a great dog, and I say that, we've had plenty of dogs. We have lots of dogs, but this dog is literally the nicest, most personable dog you've ever met, that anyone's ever met. And so that was part of why it was so brutal to see, those sort of things happen. And so, and I do believe that prayer matters. We have a veterinarian here saying, I wish I knew it was. The dog got just in a situation that none of the vets had seen before. The dog actually got 3 different pretty serious infections at the same time. And so it hit the kidneys pretty hard. And so, of course, when you give them the medication to deal with the disease, then that puts further stress on the kidneys. And so you don't know how much they can take. Fortunately, he appears to be past the crisis point, and definitely appears to be recuperating and on the right track. So, which is great news. But again, he's not out of the woods yet. He's young. He's strong. He's surrounded by people and other dogs who love him. He's only 3 years old. And so, it's just one of those things where you sometimes have to make a decision. And in this particular case, we decided that it was worth fighting. And so, but everybody's different. Space Bunny absolutely loves animals, and she's a dog girl. She's always, our second date was us, going out, just taking our dogs out in the forest. And so that's always been our relationship with our animals, our relationship with our dogs has always been a integral part of our relationship and our lives together. And so it's important to us in a way that it might not be the same for another couple. And so, I'm very happy and very thankful that he, passed that test. He's got other hurdles to surmount, but this was a big one. And so, and I very much appreciate, and Space Bunny very much appreciates all of the well wishes, all of the prayers, all of the emotional support. And so when he does get better, he's actually been on a Darkstream a long time ago. So when he gets better, I will definitely have him appear on the Darkstream, and perhaps you'll see a glimpse of why we think so highly of him. But the thing is that sort of small thing in the grand scheme of things is just a microcosm of the sort of hope that we're talking about with regards to Christmas. If you think about it, when you look at the way that people wrestle with the problem of evil, the way they wrestle with why bad things happen to good people, why bad things happen to good animals, why bad things happen, period. Then you have to, that should help you understand how important this hope is, this hope that we can stand against that evil, that we can survive that evil, that evil does not have any claim to us if we take the way out. Let's see, question, do your kids know, or are you trying to hide it? You couldn't hide this, he lost a lot of weight, and one of the kids has just been an utter warrior about it. Literally has been hand feeding him for 3 weeks. The only one who can get the dog to actually eat anything. Now he's starting to get more of an appetite, but even the vets have been incredibly impressed. So, no, you got to tell your kids the truth. Just so you understand, I firmly believe in shamelessly lying to my children about trivial things. I'll tell you some stories about some of the the things about meerkats and desert penguins and so forth at some point. But you have to have fun. There's something about there's something about that daddy voice in a kid, that note in a kid's voice, that just tells you that they're having a great time. But when you're dealing with serious matters, you cannot lie to them, because the truth is going to be apparent. Anthony Dunn says, when you became a Christian, was it a case of dipping a toe, feeling the warmth, and diving in, becoming rapidly devout, or was it a slow immersion? Well, I would say that in terms of belief, it was a diving in. But I would say in terms of the effect on my life, it was a slow process. It's hard to change your ways. It's hard to resist temptation when you love your sin. Don't ever look at me as any sort of moral paragon. I'm not. But the important thing to keep in mind is that God makes a habit of using flawed instruments. When you look at David, when you look at Saul, when you look at Thomas, Peter, these are all flawed men. These are all men who made mistakes, who gave into temptation, who did stupid things, who in some cases even sinned grotesquely. And yet God still found a way to use them. And we have talent in the house. The author of Chicago Typewriters here. What was your favorite Christmas present ever? I would have to say it was probably the Mattel television that my dad gave my brother and I when we were kids. I would say that was probably, my dad even said, this is the greatest Christmas present you're ever going to get. And I think he might have been right. I love in television to this day. But so what I would encourage you to focus on, to think about tonight, what I like to do on Christmas Eve is I always like to read through the Christmas story in the Bible, late at night, after everyone's gone to bed. And I think that it allows us to get in the correct spirit of the season, to focus on the important, integral aspect of the historical event that we're celebrating, as well as the metaphorical and spiritual aspects of it. People talk about, well, Jesus was actually born in the spring, Jesus was actually born in the autumn, etc., etc. It's not important. It's not relevant. If you learn one thing from reading the New Testament, it's that Jesus is not concerned about the forms. He's concerned about what's in here. He's concerned about what's in your heart. So don't think that you can fool anyone. Don't think that, but especially don't think that you can fool God. You might be able to fool yourself, or at least pretend to fool yourself, but you can't fool God. It's kind of funny that I'm the one who's saying this, because I'm the one who, I'm probably one of the more well-known doubters of the concept of omniscience. But the one thing that God specifically says he knows literally everything about is the human heart. And so that's the one thing you can be absolutely certain you're not going to hide anything with regards to. Do you think we right-wing Christians lack charity, Vox? I struggle with this question in that we tend to put political and worldly matters above our concern for our fellow man in the broadest sense. No, I don't think so, because charity begins at home. Love your neighbor as yourself. Not everybody. If God meant for you to love everybody as yourself, he would have said that. He said, love your neighbor. There's another verse where it talks about if you do not care first for your family, that you are as bad as an unbeliever. And so, you need to ignore the false charity of churchians who have this bizarre idea that the less relationship you have with someone, the better the charity that you offer to that person is. And so if you think about it, God wants to have a relationship with us. God sent Jesus to have a relationship with people. Not people in general, actual specific people. When you look at the nature of his relationship with John and how it was different than his relationship with Peter, and that was different than his relationship with Thomas. This is somebody who values relationships. One of my favorite stories in the Bible is when Jesus shows up after his resurrection and visits Thomas. And Thomas just refused to believe what the others like. We saw him. Like, no, you didn't see him. He was dead. We saw him die. And then Jesus shows up and says, look, it's me. It really is me. He didn't condemn him. He didn't criticize him. He knew that this was a friend who had mourned him. And so, again, charity is about the heart. It's not just about the act of distributing money from one party to another. That's a bank. Okay? What could be less charitable or more soulless than a bank? So if you're just talking about the act of giving money to somebody, there's no intrinsic good in that act. If that were true, then the payment processors are the most virtuous, most charitable people on the planet. Oh no, Owen has 10 times the viewers. Well, he should. I mean, he's got 20 times the subscribers. So, um, you know, go ahead and jump back. Say Merry Christmas to Owen and all the bears for me. Um, and have a Merry Christmas yourself. So, um, so on that note, I just want to wish all of you a Merry Christmas. I hope that you'll have uh, a meaningful silent night this Christmas Eve. And I hope you'll remember to experience both the hope and the joy and the beauty of Christmas, because it's all those things. It's about Jesus. It's about the joy with your family. It's about the excitement in the children's faces. All of these things are good things. So enjoy them all. Celebrate them all. Have a Merry Christmas.